everyone. So today I am doing a post-grad life update questions and answers, but most specifically I'm going to talk about do you get your life back once you graduate, or how are things different from being a graduate student and now being a post-grad, a person with a PhD, but like newly PhD. A lot of these questions, if not all of these questions, came from comments of my last videos. So I want to thank you so much if you ask questions, and always feel free to leave questions in the comments, because that's how I do these Q&A videos. So the first question is, how has the transition from being a doctoral candidate to now being able to pursue other projects without the demands of academia? What is that transition like for you? For me personally, the transition from being a postdoctoral or a PhD candidate to now graduating has been a complete 180 in the way in which I was living my life. So as a graduate student, I was teaching multiple classes. I was obviously doing my own research or writing or things like that. I had leadership positions, or I was in organizations. I was a co-editor-in-chief of a journal. So I had all of these things that I was doing constantly, while also trying to juggle a relationship, trying to juggle friendships, family relationships. My family doesn't live in California, so also juggling traveling, seeing people that I care about, and life monuments and all of these things, and also not being paid very much. That was a lot. Now, post-grad, I am just not that busy. I don't teach at all because of the way that my postdoc is structured. I do have a lot of time on my hands to do just things for me. I've started, I call it my healthy girl. My nickname in my family is Bia. So my healthy girl Bia workout, or my healthy girl Bia lifestyle. And so I do a lot more cooking, which I really enjoy. I spend a lot more leisure time decompressing, reflecting on stuff. I do yoga. So it's I have more personal time in relation to what I was doing before, which was really trying to juggle. And the transition was literally overnight. I submitted my dissertation September 15th, 2023. And I started my postdoc, my job, September 15th, 2023. And it was that moment I was treated completely differently. And I'll talk about that also later on. Which, is connected to the next question, which is, since the transition of joining or becoming a postdoctoral fellow, have I noticed a difference in my everyday life? And again, like I said now, completely. I have just way more time. Now, I guess in relation to the work-life balance, when you go from one extreme to the other, it's kind of hard to figure out what is the healthy medium. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm only about 7 months or so from graduation, which on paper seems like a lot of time, but when you're living it, does not feel like that much time. And so now I'm trying, and I kind of talked about this in my publication video, but I'm trying to figure out what is a healthy amount of time to work on academia, writing, publishing, reading, being an academic, and what is a healthy amount of time being a regular person. The difficulty with being an academic, especially a postdoc that's not very structured like mine, versus having a regular 9-to-5, is that a 9-to-5, you have a set schedule, set expectations, and the consequences of, the consequences aren't always you're not going to get paid or whatever when you don't do these things. So if you have a project that you have to work on at work, you just work on it throughout the day, and then you come home and then you don't have to think about it at all. And then you eventually get it done because that's your only focus. And or if you don't get it done, then maybe you get in trouble with your boss or reprimanded, or maybe you ask for help from your colleagues or coworkers or things like that. But there's so much structure that you're able to know what are the expectations when they're, when they need to be done and how. As an academic, all of it feels at this point for me is just self-guided, which is great for flexibility to do what you want to do, hanging out with friends, spending time with loved ones, taking up a hobby. but also it's dysregulating because you don't actually know if you're making enough progress or if you're producing enough to be competitive, because the expectations are not consistent across all like the universities or things like that, and nobody's like career path is consistent or the same. And so in that regard, that transition or that work-life balance has been hard, because I don't want to be trapped in like this feeling that I have to do academic work 24/7. I want to learn how to train my brain to see my academic job as like a 9 to 5, even though it doesn't function like that. But at the same time, I don't want to misinterpret or misunderstand how much work I should be doing and then underproduce and then not be able to get whatever type of job stability or accolades or whatever that I need to do to be able to have a consistent, steady income. And when you ask a bunch of different people, they'll give you a bunch of different answers, so it's not consistent. So that's been something that I am working on, trying to understand better. But all in all, in regards to what it felt like as a human to be a graduate student or a PhD candidate, and what it feels like now to be a human as an actual doctor of philosophy, it's night and day, and it feels so much more manageable. And even the one qualm that I have is trying to figure out that balance feels doable. I just have to figure it out, and there's not like a lot of external pressure or a sensation of like being burnt out or overworked. Did I publish while I was in grad school? I mean, the literal answer is yes. But if you're asking, did I publish a peer-reviewed original research article, then the answer is no. And I do have a video that talks, like the one I just talked about, it talks all about why I haven't published and what publication has been like that for me, if you're curious to know more about my publication journey. But sweet and simple, I did publish things like book reviews, I have a peer-reviewed exhibition critique, and then I have a publication in an exhibition catalog, but I don't have a peer-reviewed journal of my original research yet. The next question is, what does the next 5 years look like for you? And I actually really like this question because this is where I'm like a type A type person, and I have a life plan up into the year 2030, which is like a 7-year. When I wrote it, it was a 7-year life plan, but now it's more like pushing on 6. But if you're curious, this is what it looks like on this axis. There's the years, and then here are like the seasons, because you know it's on an academic calendar, so I have the seasons. And then inside of here I have like little tabs. Not that you all asked for this at all. I'm just really excited to talk about the ways in which I plan out my life. And at the bottom, it has like little tabs that show the year. And then when you click on those tabs, it'll have like that year's goals. And then I break it up by months. So, and then within that, I'm like showing. So if you're interested, or if you want me to like do a deep dive into how I've organized my life, I'm more than happy to do a video about it because I'm very excited. I like to color code things as well. But the next 5 years, which is what you asked about, not about how I organize my next 5 years. In short, when I got into my PhD, okay, this is gonna be mild. Like, it's gonna not be short, but maybe not long. But the point is, when I got into my PhD, I didn't necessarily want to be an academic. I actually didn't see beyond the PhD. When I was little, I just wanted to get my PhD, so the dream was the degree. And now that the degree is over, I didn't really have a post-degree plan. And so while you're in your PhD, you do experience indoctrination, like convincing that you need to be a certain way, do a certain job, or these types of jobs are valuable. And that's something that happened to me, and I'm trying to unlearn, and I will do videos on that. Probably in the fall, because I'm still in the process of like processing my emotions and understanding what I feel. But I will say there is a big push to become an academic, to be a professor, to work at a research institution, and to do all of the things. And so currently that's kind of the plan that I'm working towards. And so I have a postdoc. It literally just got renewed yesterday for my 2nd year, which means I'm doing pretty good. But it's only a 2-year appointment. So that means that when I started this life plan, I broke it into postdoc and then postdoc, right? So my 5-year plan, if I were to start this year, is to continue my obvious postdoc, but also apply to other types of grants or writing fellowships or other postdocs. And the reason that is because I'm doing a book project, right? The goal is to develop a book, but it's different than my dissertation. I personally feel like with my personality, I would just benefit from being able to write without the pressure of having to do all this extra work, which is teaching, serving on committees, the politics of talking to other people. Like, I would like to do the bulk of my book research without a lot of stress, in a perfect, beautiful world. And so this year, a lot of what I'm doing is developing my book proposal, doing the initial research or the preliminary research, looking for grants and fellowships to continue writing for the year after my postdoc ends. And also because, like I just said, I don't have any publications, I am actively working towards trying to get one of my chapters or an article that I started a long time ago but never got published. I'm trying to get that published this year. So that's year 1. Year 2 would be the year after my postdoc, is hopefully I have that writing fellowship or something like that. But if not, I am also I will go on the market 2024, 2025 to look for academic jobs. And so hopefully that falls through. If none of those things fall through, then this whole plan goes out the window and I probably will just get a museum job because I know I'm competitive for that. I've done it and live life. So that's my non-academic 5-year plan. It's, work, trying to become an academic, and if that falls through, get a regular nonprofit or museum job, and c'est la vie, like live life. But if I am able to get an academic job, then after I get the job or I get the writing fellowship, work on the book, obviously. And then I also want to do some exhibition development. I would like to turn a lot of the research that is going into the book into a visual component as well. And so developing those proposals and those skill sets. And then after that, it's not I'm looking at it, it's not, unless you're an academic, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is just reading, writing, and proposing, trying to get money and grants, which is kind of the whole gist of being an academic as it is. So yeah, my 5-year plan is continue my postdoc, publish, develop my book. I am going to the Smithsonian this year as a short-term postdoctoral fellow for my book project. So that's, again, the book project, develop an exhibition that is related to the book project and can have public programming and things of that nature, and then work on publishing some academic articles, and then obviously applying to fellowships, jobs, and things of that nature. So it's very, very detailed on my life plan, but coming out, I realized it didn't sound all that like I needed 5 years to do it. But trust me, it takes time. I'm not over exaggerating. That is a reasonable 5-year plan. Somebody did ask too, and I think this is a good question. If you're done with your dissertation, why do you have to write a book? And the short term, you don't have to write a book. You absolutely do not. It is based off of what you want to do after you graduate and what your field is. And so I am a humanities scholar. I most likely will be in the humanities, though I technically could work in social sciences. I enjoy the work of humanities. And so I know that in most humanities programs, if you want to be a tenured track professor at a research institution, they usually expect you to write a book. And so that's why I am writing a book. But if you're somebody who has no desire to publish, and there are academics that do have a desire to publish, and if you are an academic that doesn't like to publish or has no desire to publish, please comment your reasoning and your experience and how you got there, because I think that will help a ton of people who may hate writing or hate publication, that process, and feel like they're by yourself and you're completely not alone. But yes, so if you are somebody like that, you can work at really good institutions, really good universities that are just not research focused. They're more teaching colleges or teaching universities. You can also probably find different places to work abroad that may not have those same expectations or things like that. But it's about the institution itself and where you want to work. And if you have no desire to be a professor, if you want to go into industry, if you want to go into nonprofits, if you want to go into the government, or if you want to do like museum work or whatever, that's also not a requirement. The PhD is definitely enough. It's completely enough for jobs. So if you have a fear that you're going to get your PhD and then you have to do more work, unless you want to be a tenure track professor at a large research institution, you do not have to do more work like that. And if you're in the social sciences or if you're in the STEM fields, more times than not, you don't write a book. You'll just do articles, or you'll do publications or projects or initiatives that may look different. You'll still be expected most likely at a research institution to produce some type of academic work, because that's what research institutions are paying you to do, and that's what their money's about. But the final product, the research that you produce may look different. I just know in the humanities, a book is what is expected, and I kind of really like the idea of doing a book. Now, going back to the question from earlier, and it's how do people treat you, or like what's the difference of how people treat you between being a PhD candidate or a PhD student to post-grad? And again, just like the work-life balance, it is night and day. When I was a PhD student, every time I had an idea, every time I wanted to say something or talk to somebody new, they approached me like I didn't know anything. They would talk to me condescendingly. They would ask me like really like simple questions that were kind of infantilizing. Like they saw me as a child. And when you're a student, you don't really know that that's not normal. That's not how they'll talk to you forever. You just kind of think, oh, that person was rude, or that person was talking to me in a weird way. But you don't see that as, well, you may, especially if you're watching this, but like I didn't see it as like, oh, they're talking to me like that because I'm a student. I would oftentimes think, oh, they're talking to me like that maybe because I'm a Black woman. Maybe they're talking to me like that because they're, uppity, or like they think they're better than me. But I didn't really recognize my status as a student as being so influential in the ways in which people viewed my ability to contribute to intellectual conversations, discourse, in academic dialogue in general. And this isn't everybody, obviously. I had a lot of people who did validate who I was, my research, my ideas, and things like that. I definitely had positive experiences. But since graduating, nobody talks to me like that. And I think that's the important thing. I've gone into spaces where I literally felt like, oh, I don't know anything. And I'd be like, oh, I'm not really confident in this topic. And they'd be like, don't say that. You're a doctor. Yeah, you'll figure it. Like, you're confident. You'll figure it out. It's not that hard. And it could be a byproduct of the fact that I'm in this postdoc, and the department that I am in is African American Studies. So like the context in which I'm working with is completely different than being in like a very anthropology focused world arts and cultures department at UCLA. I'm also at UCI. So like there's cultural differences, obviously, but like in general, people really do put respect on your name once you have the credential. Even though I personally feel like intellectually, thought process wise, there is not much difference between me in 2024 than me in 2022 when I was doing my research. But people approach me differently. They speak to me differently. And I guess it's just because they now have proof that I've done the work or that I'm valuable. So if you feel like you're trapped or like you're lost or you're afraid that people will always approach you like this, the answer is it might most likely get better. I'm not going to say that I'm confident that that will never happen again, especially since I'm still acknowledging like academia is ableist, academia is racist, elitist, heterosexist. It's like focused on all these isms that are supposed to marginalize so many of my identities and probably so many of your identities. So if you're somebody who does still have an identity, like if you are somebody who has autism, if you're somebody who has a visual disability, or you're Black, or you're queer, or like if there's an identity of yours that is not welcomed in academia more generally, I do think just how the world functions for most of us, you will experience those condescending moments and being belittled and things like that. But for me personally, it's been a lot less frequent now that I've graduated and I've entered into spaces that are directly related to the research, the work, and the communities that I care about. And so that might also be a thing. So if you're a STEM student and you share these multiple marginalized identities, or you have disabilities or things, when you make it into the professional world as a STEM student, you still may continue to feel that way because you're not transitioning from, like, I was in a very white institution with very white centric views, and now I'm in a very non-white department that is not invested in those same views and same methodologies and same perspectives. And that does fundamentally impact how you are received and treated. And so, but again, independent of UCI and the department, even outside, like even when I'm at the Getty or in other spaces, people do just really put respect on my name. So if that is a concern for you, it could get better, but I do think you should be aware of what institutions or consider what institutions you're entering into and the culture of those institutions to make sure that you are entering into spaces that will celebrate you and validate you versus others that are notorious for being violently discriminatory. If you have more questions about me, what my life is about, or anything like that, please leave them in the comments, or you can head to this playlist here where I do a ton of questions and answers. They're actually my favorite videos to film, so I really appreciate everybody who has left a comment. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next